consequence of this whole way of thinking, the whole Blair, Starmer, Hermer way of thinking is you have no notion of a national interest. We've completely lost any notion that this country has a right to, itself has got a right, itself has got an interest. Any notion that the native population of this country is what the government should be answering to. We even had a leading figure of the Blair years and after, Gus O'Donnell, the permanent secretary of the Treasury, saying that he thought his responsibility was global welfare. Not just national. What on earth is a British civil servant saying that for? There's genuinely been. I think it may be a problem of late. I wonder whether it's a problem of late empire. That having as it were just ceased to rule the world. Because remember, when I was born, the king was still Emperor of India.
Right.
That Suez, I'm 11, I remember vividly Suez. By the way, I was a terrible lefty. I was the only boy in my school who supported Nasser. You can imagine how well that went down. So that loss of empire, but having just ceased to rule the world, it seems to me that our ruling class decided it was their duty to set a good example to the world.
Right.
And this is the catastrophe that we're in now, and why all the things like the so-called rules-based international order, which indeed with America we were directly, in fact in many ways more than America, we were responsible for creating in 1945, have actually been turned against us. Because we went into it, as it were, with belief in principles of honesty, decency, and fair play. But of course, many other international players have completely different views. It's why we can't negotiate with the French. I don't know how well you know France. One of the things that's striking about the French is they've got no problem in saying no. They rather enjoy saying non. You'll get non in a shop. In England, it's completely... It's so ill-mannered. We say things like, "Oh, I'm terrible." Well, actually, do you mind? That's a firm no. I mean, we're almost as indirect as the Japanese, and so this makes for a terrible problem when you deal with those who are capable of saying no.
My problem remains, David, how we unpick all this, because you obviously know it in great detail. But we need, therefore...
Clearly too much.
Yeah, well, never too much. But we need, therefore, politicians to come in knowing this and with the will and ability to unpick it. And Douglas Carswell has talked about this on my podcast.
Yes, Douglas Carswell has written very well on this. I must say, particularly after he discussed it with me. But I mean, it's very good and very clear. And he's got much more direct political experience than I do. Can I tell you what is the best teacher?
Go on.
Events. Why was Margaret Thatcher acceptable? Because politics and Britain became so forgive me, fucked up. The period of the collapse that followed 1976 and the calling in of the IMF and the progressive disintegration culminating in the winter of discontent, that taught everybody that something was necessary. I think what's going on now is beginning the process of teaching. Remember, we've lived in an extraordinary world, and it's particularly true of the left. The left essentially believes in magic. It believes in the power of words. It believes that if somebody says, if you and I say we are women, and we have the little bit of paper that proves it. We are women. It doesn't matter if our todgers are in full repair and doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, the irony is, this extraordinary creature in Fife apparently was trying to get his wife with a child at the same time proclaiming himself, completely demented, but the belief in the magic of words. We see it with Rachel Reeves. I mean, she's claiming that her economic policy is focused on growth. At the same time, she's increasing taxes and doubling down on regulation and increasing workers' rights, all of which is guaranteed to reverse growth. Right? But it's a belief in magic. Human beings believe in magic. They want to believe in magic. We have had, ever since I think the Second World War, we believed in magic. We've been told the idea that you have an NHS free at the point of use is not free at the point of use. It's now rapidly, and I think it's now consuming 3 out of every £10 you raise in tax, and pretty soon it will be 5. In other words, exactly half of what you pay in tax goes to the NHS. That ain't free. But we've magicked ourselves into this position. Again, we are fundamentally religious animals. We believe in myths. We want myths. We want stories. And T.S. Eliot, who is one of my favourite poets, has this wonderful phrase, mankind, and dare I say, I think it applies particularly to womankind, cannot bear too much reality. Reality is a cruel and hard thing. We've always wanted lies. Lies are much easier, if they are the polished lies of a Boris Johnson or the boring, plodding, legally enforced lies of a Keir Starmer. Lies are much easier than the truth. But every so often, reality hits you. The world, again, I'm a serious conservative. The facts of life are conservative. Eventually, the gods of the copybook headings, Rudyard Kipling is brilliant on all of this stuff. The god of accounting, the god of balancing the books. They get up and they bite you.
Right, so you think reality will force a change? Because as you say, we're living in lies. We have a Labour Party that tries to do a very minor cut on benefits, which will say
immediately the entire
rebellion from the backbench.
Every backbencher. Yeah. You see, again, look at who they are. Who are these people? They're school teachers. They are social workers. They're local authority workers. They're charity workers. There's hardly a person with a science degree amongst them. Most of them can't count, and they all feel. Oh, they have so much feeling. Do you remember when the magnificent Rupert Lowe ventured to use cruel, hard words in the House on the subject of the rape gangs? You had Sarah Champion getting up in tears. How could? But listen to her. How could you use such a? The very fact that in the assembly that's supposed to debate and decide, you have a woman blubbing. You had Rachel Reeves blubbing. I'm tired of people blubbing.
Sarah Champion, particularly bizarre, because she was one of the first people to raise the grooming gangs and lost her job at the time.
She couldn't tolerate things being called by their proper names. But sorry, this is why, again, who bears so much responsibility for this? And look at the key phrase. It's Theresa May, denouncing the Conservative Party as the nasty party. You need a nasty party. You need a party that says you can't just have as much as you want. That if you want loads and loads of lovely welfare, A, you've got to raise enough tax, and B, you've got to have an economy that is successful enough that you can take the tax out of it without, of course, people simply deciding, A, they're going to up sticks and go anywhere else. Because remember, the rich are mobile. The rich find it very easy to move. The rich also, if they're really rich, find it very easy to move their wealth. And the trouble is, again, it's a point that should be made much more often. Do you know what is the first time in this country? Income tax, I'll give you a clue. Income tax is invented at the beginning of the 19th century for the Napoleonic Wars by William Pitt the Younger, one of our prime ministers who'd been to Cambridge, and in the days when the only degree you could take at Cambridge was mathematics, so we could do sums. What is the first time that a person on an average income pays income tax? After the beginning of the 19th century.
I believe it's just after the Second World War, so 48.
Correct. Why?
It's
why after the Second World War?
Yeah.
Why not during it?
That's a good question.
The answer is to pay for the welfare state.
Right.
It is welfare states demand heavy taxation. And again, the whole notion, the whole new nut, fruit and chalk party, as I call it, that's after Diana Abbott, has joined Corbyn and Sultana, the nut, fruit and chalk party. Of course, supremely believes in magic, supremely believes that there's a free ride. There just isn't. There just isn't. They all subscribe, not surprisingly, to so-called modern monetary theory, which says you can just print money. We know what happens. If you print money, you get inflation. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, Rachel Reeves was stupid enough to model her economic policies on what Joe Biden did. Everybody thinks it's only the right that copies America, The British left is absolutely obsessed with the Democrats, and she modelled her policies on Biden. There was one important difference. Biden could borrow because it's the dollar. Mm-hmm. But do you know what the cost of Biden's borrowing for that ridiculously named Inflation Reduction Act? Well, he was spending money on exactly what Rachel Reeves wanted to, on renewables, on transportation, on improved healthcare, on education, all these nice goodies, But what was the consequence of borrowing huge amounts of money to spend on that? Inflation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, well, of course.
American inflation outstepped that of everywhere else because you were flinging, it's classic Keynesianism. Mm-hmm. It's why the economy crashed in the 1970s. So what we've got now.
Some blame Nixon for coming off the gold standard.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but it's above all the demands of welfare expenditure. That's finally finally what leads to all of this. But there is a terrible refusal to confront it. As I said, nobody wants to be the nasty party. Mm. The Conservative Party decided that it wanted to be a liberal party. Liberal means liberal with the cash as well as liberal with everything else. You can't keep it up, and particularly when you've got an economy that will not grow. I mean, and the reasons are immensely clear. Why that's the case? We are over-regulated. We are overtaxed. The absurd difficulty of getting anything done in this country because we've created these ludicrous legal and regulatory structures. I mean, every one of those quangos is imposing a body of regulation. Every one of those judges is interfering in economic activity. The whole structures of employment tribunals, every one of them is a break on business. We will not recognise this fact.